Slurpy Dirt, my G's. Hope you're all doing good. I want to give a massive shout out to my student Paul, aka So Much Silly, who commented, he messaged me a while ago saying, I explain things better when I've got my glasses on, so glasses are going to stay on for the time being until I'm good enough at explaining without them. Anyway, today I've got a phase plant bass, and I'm really happy because in the last 2 or 3 days I was doing some sound design and I was sitting down trying a bit of phase plant, trying a bit of Vital, and I didn't come up with anything good in the last 2 or 3 days that I wanted to share. And so it's a little bit frustrating, but I mean, everyone goes through these kind of creative ruts. And the basses I made weren't like so bad, but they just weren't worth making a video about. So I finally made one today, which is a phase plant Reese. I'm going to call it the DARKO Reese because I saw this really cool picture of a AI generated evil rabbit in the woods, and I chose to recreate it myself with the AI generator for a thumbnail. And yeah, that's the only reason really. Other than that, it's just dark, dirty Reese, and I'm going to show you how I made it. First of all, let's hear how it sounds, and then I'll explain you through the patch, and you can replicate it and make it yourself. I think it sounds pretty dope. Let's have a listen. So it's one of these Reeses that goes up when it goes up in pitch, it speeds up. And that's the natural effect you get when the movement is coming from the detuning between like two, saw waves or sine waves. In this case, it's made with just sine waves pretty much. I love that bit of reverb on as well. It's got quite a heavy amount of reverb on, but I'm enjoying that because it's just making it sound super larger than life. So anyway, let's run through what we've got. Just in the like oscillator section, and then we'll do the effects where it starts to get like really spicy. So that's what it sounds like without the effects. It's just a little bit of global unison on like the whole patch, and it's just set to 3 voices at smooth, a little bit of spread and detuning just to give like a little bit of stereo spread to everything, but it's not too extreme here. So anyway, the basis of the sound, as you can hear, doesn't sound that great on its own, but it's important to have that first before we start to like heavily affect it to get that final Reese sound. And the movement and everything is coming from in here already. So the first oscillator I selected, the first waveform, was a metallic comb, and you can find that on the spectral, and then metallic comb comes with phase plant. Basically, not really playing with the wave-like position on any of these. It's just a bit of FM going on. So this is the first main one, and then we've got, after that, we've got 2 sine waves, which are going to be FM'd from the metallic comb. As you can see here are the 2 sine waves, but they don't look like sine waves anymore because they've been FM'd by the metallic comb. But if you check here, it's just an analog oscillator set to sine wave mode. And then we've got a little bit of white noise, which is going to go through a different stage of filtering to the rest of it in the effects. So yeah, the metallic comb first of all, and if you've got to pay attention to the pitching here because this is what's creating the movement. So we're very precise here. So the metallic comb is at minus 25.31. Okay, so it's not exactly at minus 24 like an octave down. So it's a bit off the main root note. And the harmonic is set to ×2 as well, so I've turned that up here as well. Okay. Then the FM of this is going to go into the first sine wave here, which is just at minus 24. Okay, so you take the output of the of this oscillator to the phase here, turned it up about 20%. And then I've done the same here on the second sine wave. But the phase is down the other way, minus 13, so not quite as much. And on this one, this is the really important one. This is where we get the movement, because this one's not at minus 24 either. It's at minus 26.79. So this is where the movement really comes from, because these 2 sine waves are detuning from each other. So if I put that up, so, down at minus 26.79, it's a further away, so it's a faster detuning that we've got, giving the movement. And obviously, like when we play higher up in the keyboard, that will get faster as well. So that's that classic Reese movement across your keyboard. So that's exciting, isn't it, my G's? Put a yes in the comment section if you thought that part was particularly exciting. I don't actually speak like that in real life. I speak more like this, just my YouTube voice, isn't it? Anyway, next up, I got a little bit of noise, and I added this in afterwards because I wanted to get a bit more natural high end. And this is just 12% volume, so it's not very much. And there's a little bit of movement on the stereo spread, and we just add a little filter in here just to take out the low end of the noise. We're going to shoot this one over to lane 3, because in lane 2 we got a low pass filter, and I don't want to low pass filter the noise. I want to keep all the high end in and just add it in right at the end on lane 3. So with the movement of the patch, all that main Reesiness is coming from the detuning of the 2 FM sine waves. However, the LFO here is just a kind of slow up and down almost to give a little bit of life into a couple of parameters. Like I mentioned before, the stereo of the noise, and then we've got a few things going on in the effects section that this is going to give a little bit of life to as well. So other than that, polyphony legato mode set to 1, and the glide is turned up to 129 milliseconds, so that's good. And that's basically just, enabling us to glide up and down the keyboard, so make sure that's set as well. And I don't think there's anything else to mention here. Remember, these are just 2 sine waves. I just give them a little bit of extra release so that it doesn't stop so abruptly. And yeah, they're detuning from each other, almost 3 semitones down, one of them is. And then this main one up at the top, that's really as well not the root note. It's minus 25.31, just kind of randomly chosen there to make it sound cool. And the gain is turned down off this one, so yeah. So I've actually taken that completely off. So we just hear the 2 sine waves with the FM going into detuning with each other. So now we've got that basis movement and those harmonics. Now it's time to get really interesting and actually mess with it a lot. So there's quite a decent amount of effects. What have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, I can't count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's my favourite number. So we've got 7 effects. So let's start off with lane 1. And here I've just got a nice bit of distortion, overdrive. And that really gets the aggression and volume up quite a lot higher. You'll notice that I've got Camel Crusher on my channel here as well, because we're really driving the sound into a kind of clipper brick wall here. So it's important to have that on so that it's going to sound the same when it's clipped to 0, rather than just leaving it in the red and hoping it's going to sound the same once it's been clipped. So put that clipper on, because we're going really high with the volumes here, but it still sounds dynamic as well, so don't worry. And then what we got next is the convolver. So this is the small control room. I love this one for a tight reverb, but it adds a bit of natural character. And the mix is up at 10%, and I've given it a little bit of movement, so you get a little bit more reverb here and there, just a small amount. One of these fine tuning details to get a little bit of extra kind of dynamism and life into the sound. So you can hear that just adds a little edge of a natural room sound to the bass. We're going to add one more at the end as well. But let's move over to the second lane. And right now everything's going through, both of our sine waves are going through all of this. It's just the white noise that's not coming in yet. So this one is where we start to, what the idea here is taking out some of those harsh frequencies that are too synthetic by using a low pass filter, and then amping up the distortion. So that the low pass filter doesn't quite take out all of the high end, it leaves a little bit in, and then we're going to boost it back up again through the flavor of the distortion. So we've got a new high end which is not so dramatically synthetic from the oscillator section. It's been more convoluted through the filter and the distortion. So the first filter is a non-linear, and I like this one a lot, especially on the digital mode. You get some really interesting results. So non-linear filter, digital mode, turn the drive all the way up to really hear the effect of that mode. And here, you know, you can tell I've taken out a lot of the high end. So we're really sort of scooping out a lot of that. Okay. And just to give it a little bit more realism, I've put a tiny bit of movement on the cutoff here on this sort of slow LFO, really, really small amount. Okay. Now, like I said before, we're going to distort it after to reintroduce that high end again. Okay, so this is one of the main parts to the effects where we really, you know, it goes from average to awesome, you know. So this is the fold back distortion, and it's up very, very high at 10 dB, and we've got a little bit of stereo spread. What I've done in the first one is added a little bit of stereo spread. This one's got a bit of stereo spread, and of course we had the global unison with a bit of stereo spread. So we're adding in little steps of stereo throughout the process to get a more natural, you know, finished kind of full wide sound that's not all come from just one parameter. So this is where the foldback really, you know, just by choosing the different modes, I stumbled across this one, and I found that it really exaggerated the movement that we already created, and it, you know, it tasted good, this distortion. It's very dirty, but it tastes nice. Kind of like a char-grilled barbecue steak. Shout out to my student Daz from Australia. Absolute G. Daz my beast. Next up then, we got a phase distortion here. And if I remember to turn the lane on. So this is like kind of finishing up the sound then, because the first two lanes, especially this distortion here, you know, that's sort of gone from 40% up to like 80 or 90% complete just with that one effect. But you've got to remember that everything I designed in, you know, in the oscillator section before is designed to respond to a massive amount of distortion, okay? So I knew it kind of wasn't sounding good at the beginning, but I was getting in that movement, getting in those harmonics, and then I knew I was going to really change it with a bunch of distortion, and especially filtering out the highs before I do that, so it's not all aggressive high end. It's just softer like bass that gets through the massive distortion first. Yeah. So next, then let's add the phase distortion, and this is again, you know, a little bit of extra toning, and it's on. I don't like to play with the mix because it always gets a bit phasey. Yeah, it's called phase distortion, but it sounds bad when you know, you really hear it start to phase. So I always leave the mix at 100, and then I just use the drive to see how much of it I want to add. So, you know, it's pretty much off at 0. You know, we get really start to get super aggressive, but it kind of destroys the low end a bit when you go too high. So I opted for around 14%, I think it was. And playing with the tone and the bias just to shape that a little bit, and it just gives a little bit of extra colour to the sound, you know, just making it a bit different. Then again, a little bit more colouring and shaping the sound by dipping out a bit of that mid-range on a notch filter and just scooping it up and down at the desired point. So this is around 360 hertz. And it's just a little bit of movement, so you don't always have this hole in the sound in the same spot. The hole is moving around a bit, so we don't lose the overall fullness. But that's doing quite a lot as well if you listen here. Okay, so it does really kind of exaggerate the lows and the highs a little bit more. So it's kind of up to you if you want to have this one in. For me, like, I wish I could mix it in, and I probably could if I built like a snap heap, because I feel like it's gone a little bit too far, but I'd rather it was a little bit too far than not enough, because it does give the sound more of a dynamic feel, you know, a little bit more bass, a little bit more highs, you know, sacrificing the mid-range a little bit, but I like it in this case. And it's the warm mode, again, the non-linear filter. It's got some great modes. The digital one is wicked, but this one was you know, it's nice to have a couple of different modes, because everything we're doing is colouring the sound, you know, in a further stage. So it would be pointless to have an overdrive and then another overdrive, or a digital filter and then another digital filter. So I'm trying to do a bit of each and just a little bit here and there to colour the sound, like I said, like kind of step by step, you know, to convolute it that way. Finally then, a convolver, and this is just a big ass reverb on the end. So the mix is like 16%. I tried putting it in a snap heap and EQing out the low end, but it just didn't have that same result. So, you know, there's a certain rules to follow with a good mix down, but really in sound design, and why I like sound design, is more fun because you can really fuck with all the rules. So here I'm like leaving all the low end of the reverb in, yeah? You can hear it's got a massive bassy reverb on it. But it sounds cool like that, you know? Without, when I tried to take that low end of the reverb out, did not sound as cool. So sound design process, synthesis like this, I don't have any like rules. I just try to go for what sounds good, and then I only think about, you know, the rules of mix down and things later on in the context of a track. And of course I could EQ my way out of bad or dodgy decisions if I really have to. But yeah, that's the Falkland Palace, which I love. I love the Falkland Palace for like a long reverb. It's got a great sound because it doesn't have too much of these harsh synthetic highs. You know, when you've got a really synthy bass with a lot of high end, the Falkland Palace one it's naturally quite damp, so it doesn't like exaggerate the kind of harshness of the sound. You just get a nice big, like kind of like really long sort of, yeah, chamber palace kind of reverb. Anyway, yeah, so that's basically the DARKO Reese. I think I've explained everything. Yeah, I'm happy that I got a Reese that Tony will enjoy. So shout out to Tony. Congratulations for getting out of jail. We look forward to seeing all the new products that you're going to come out with in the metaverse. So no, I'm just talking shit now. Anyway, yeah, that's the DARKO Reese. I hope you guys like it. If you didn't quite understand anything and you want me to explain it further, you can join my beautiful group of people in Discord, because these guys in there probably know more than I do with production. So you probably don't even need my mentorship. You could just go into Discord and just ask someone in there, and they'll just tell you everything because they're really nice. And then if you still want mentorship after that, then okay, we can do that too. You can book up with the button up there. Book your next lesson now. Let's go. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching, my G's. I hope you have a great start to your week. I hope it's very creative for you. And remember, creative ruts happen. It happened to me for the last 3 days. I could not make a single good sound to save my life. I just kept persisting. And when I, got really pissed off, I just went out and got an Uber somewhere random in the city, and then got scared by people like chasing me down because I'm a gringo, and then came back home and then tried again. So that's the idea. That's the technique. So make sure you adhere to that. And much luck. Good luck out there. Stay safe, but also enjoy yourself. Enjoy life. Much love. Peace out.